And last year, I had the privilege of hosting Ignite, and it's great to be part of this podcast and Zoom conversation today.
Oh, I thought you were gonna like ask us all our names and then like.
I thought we go around. I thought that's how we're gonna do this. Okay, and I'm gonna pass it on to Surj.
As you can tell, this has been so prepared. Well, no. My name is Surj. I'm in a band called Space Between Us, and yeah, that's who I am.
Hi, I'm Beatrice. I had the privilege of being part of Ignite last year, and I am equally honoured to be part of this podcast today. So, hello, welcome.
I'm Saffie. I also had the privilege of being a part of Ignite last year, and I've come along to say hello to everyone and enjoy the moment.
So, guys, this year it's been a different year. You know, we were saying earlier before we started filming that last year we never envisioned this. Like, as we were doing our backgrounds, you may notice we've got quite quirky little backgrounds going on. Like, I've gone through a little Wolfy terrier type indigenous background, you know, hence Wolfy, all those things there. You got Surj in the background of Surj. Where are you, San Fran?
Does it look cool when I turn around? Because does it like actually look like I'm looking at it? It looks like San Francisco, doesn't it? Like
it does. You got Beatrice in the tropics, you know, Hawaiian holidays.
It's really ironic as well because I'm like terrified of heights, so this is actually like my worst nightmare. So
you got Saffie, like with the little jacket there. I say jacket, waistcoat and tie. He's obviously one of the doctors. See what I did there with the TARDIS. See what we've done there, innit? So we can all imagine. No, we're all coming at you from our houses in various locations. So based on last year, if you may or have not known, there's been a thing called a pandemic, and that pandemic has affected us in a major way. And that major way has been to do with our mental health and our mental well-being. And Ignite, spoken what I did last year, Ignite sparked the light, you know, and the reason, see what I did there, and the mental thing about Ignite was to do with our mental health. Our health is wealth, you know. They spark the conversation, and that part of it is what we're doing today. We're sparking a conversation that Surj underplayed himself a bit because Surj wanted to create an event called Ignite, and he got many friends involved, many organizations involved to spark a conversation about mental health, about bringing people together to understand and relay, talk, and above all things, listen and learn what it's about for other people going through mental health, and understand that mental health is such a vast thing and such a vast spectrum of things that we can all be together and go, actually, what is it like for us? Whether you're going through anxiety to depression, whether you're going through schizophrenia to uncertainty, wherever it is on that vast spectrum of things, what it is. And through this pandemic that we've been going through this year of COVID-19, everyone in some way or form has been going through this thing, has been going through this in some way. We've gone through troubles, we've gone through all things. And as today, as we go through it and through our fun and joking and things, we are talking about serious things that, I guess, the gift of insight and foresight, that little spark of a conversation was started off in February last year for some people and for so many. So without further ado, as I pass over to the guys, I just want to ask, in this last year, how's it been going? And I'm going to go ladies first. So Beatrice, over to you. How's the last year been for you?
Oh, it's been a very testing time, let's say. The main feeling that I've had this year is a sense of loneliness, because I'm cut off from so many of my family and friends. This is the third lockdown now, and it's the third lockdown that I've been pretty much on my own. So living alone has been a challenge and a blessing. The first lockdown, I decided to take up new hobbies. So I learned how to play the guitar. and that was up until July, and then I put the guitar down because I got bored. I got bored of learning or listening to myself playing so badly, and then I managed to get myself a new job. So that really has been my lifeline. So Monday to Friday, I go out to work 8 hours a day, and it allows me the opportunity to meet other people. I know they're clients of mine, but I really value that time. It's given me a sense of purpose. It's given me structure to my day. And I'm just really, really grateful. So that's kind of eased the sense of loneliness of being at home on my own. Work has really played a huge part in that. But I can't wait. I can't wait to meet up with my friends again. I mean, this is brilliant. Zoom has been a lifeline. Teams has been a lifeline for so many. But it's so artificial. I miss the human connection. Yeah. So really, in a nutshell, loneliness for me has been tough.
No, and you're right. It's tough for so many. Saffie, what about you?
I'd say I'm probably, last year was a very challenging year. I think it was for quite most people. But I don't know if all of you know, but I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety back in, or when I was about 21. I'm 28 now, so 7 years ago. And last year was very challenging in that aspect. Especially as I was a deputy manager for a pub chain. So the stress and the pressure of working in that type of environment and then being in lockdown and literally doing nothing for, what was the first one, 3-4 months long, and then going back to work in a different style and environment because everything had to change to incorporate the new pandemic and the new restrictions. And then going into another, and it was just going in and out of lockdown and having all this uncertainty. It was really quite a downward spiral for myself, and especially in regards to my own faith as well. My faith was probably all over the place, quite bipolar. Sometimes I felt very close, sometimes I felt far away. So the chance to go to Ignite at the first one was actually quite nice, just to get away from that before all of this craziness started. But yeah, no, I ended up changing jobs in the end, and I'm now volunteering full-time for a Christian organization that looks after uni students. So I feel quite blessed where I've ended up. I feel like I'm in a much happier place, less stress, more fun. And so yeah, it was a weird year, but got through it.
And both of you, because both of you had a shared common interest in terms of, so both of you were changing jobs. How's that transition been within this time? Like, how is that? Because some people have been staying in the same job, some people have been working home, but how has that transition been for both of you?
Saffie, do you want to go first?
Honestly, I'd say I found the transition quite easy because I was escaping the place before. That's what it felt like. I was escaping because it was very well, I was on my own pretty much. So loneliness was a hefty thing. I mean, I stayed I lived above the pub, and there was myself, the manager, his partner, and then the head chef, but we all pretty much stayed to ourselves. Whereas where I am now, I have 100, I think there's like 100 people all together in the same building. So even though we have our own rooms that we stay in, every so often we meet at dinner time, lunchtime, sit down, have a chat with each other, or go out for a walk because we're one household. So it was a lot. I think that made it easier because I could socialize. Whereas for some people, if they were changing jobs, especially in the environment and with the restrictions that we've had being so strict and strong, I think it would be quite traumatizing, really, quite difficult. I think that stress would have been a bit higher for most people. But yeah, no, I felt it was quite a nice, smooth transition for myself. But yeah, Beatrice.
Honestly, I am so blessed to have the job that I'm doing now. I'm still working within mental health, but now, last year I was supporting women, but this year I'm supporting men with very high mental health needs, and they also have forensics history, so they have committed crimes because of their mental health. So my job is, although it's in mental health, is very different to what I was doing before. It's come with a lot more responsibility, a lot more demanding, very demanding, because I work as part of a multidisciplinary team. So there's so many people involved in their care, and I enjoy that. It's given me a lot of drive and enthusiasm for the work that I'm doing. When we went into the first lockdown, I was still doing my previous job supporting women with alcohol and is more than alcohol. So with addiction issues and mental health problems, I found it so hard to support them in lockdown because we were working remotely, and every day I dreaded logging in because I didn't know what I was going to expect, and most of the time it was bad news because people were going through a very hard time. You know, all the support that they needed was being delivered remotely. The women had very chaotic lives. Some didn't have even credit for their phones, you know, to make a phone call to seek help. A lot of my phone calls were welfare concerns, having to send the police to check if someone was still alive. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. You sign off from work and you're worrying if that person was going to be okay.
Yeah, because there's a lot of the well-being, isn't there, of the person that you're trying to care for.
Yeah. And you were limited in the amount of support you could offer them. Actually, I felt hopeless. And when I secured my new job, it was a great relief, because I knew I'd be able to see my clients on a one-to-one basis, and they could have that human contact. So yeah, it was a good time for me to switch jobs. Yeah.
And Surj, how are you finding the lockdown? How's it been for you?
I think I've had like super mixed experiences. Obviously, like COVID is horrible, and you know, it's I don't think it's even. I think we can all speak. I don't think it's fully hit me how much it has affected our world. I mean, you know, despite I think there's so much joy to be found. I think it's, you know, when you every day you get the Sky News notification on your Mac about how many deaths that day, it is a really scary time. I think but aside from that, I found the first lockdown quite fun in a weird way. It was like, for me, I'm, you know, as you guys probably know, I'm involved in way too much more stuff than I should be, and but it was actually like a really good moment to sit down and actually be like, I've never spent so much time in my apartment, and that's really nice. But it does get to a certain point where like, well, I kind of like want to get out now. And I think I just echo what Beatrice and Saffie were saying, like definitely like loneliness. I mean, I was in a relationship at the start of lockdown, and then I think because of lockdown, you know, that relationship, you know, did suffer, and then I was kind of like on my own. And then yeah, obviously living on my own as well is I've really discovered that's been really, really difficult, you know, because for all these years I've been constantly going out meeting people, and then actually not having, you know, those people around as much. It just, you know, I really now see how much I do value my friendships and, you know, my family. But yeah, I think what's great though is that there has been moments of like pure joy, and it's really weird. Like God's, like, I think despite all the sorrow that is going on, I can sit here and, you know, like some of you may know, like my nanny passed away a couple weeks ago, and like the last year of her life, you know, she was in a care home. They had a plastic sheet because she wasn't allowed to come into contact with everyone, and, you know, she had COVID. But like, with all that aside, I genuinely believe, in my heart, I believe that God is doing something, especially in our country, you know, and so that when we come out of this, and, you know, and we will stand and we'll be say, you know, God is pulling at our heart, and I think God is bringing to the forefront of what actually matters, you know, and it's like, you know, and I think that's the biggest thing. And we can sit here and be like, you know, and it's really easy. We can probably do like a 4-hour podcast and all the shitty things that are happening to us right now, and it's shit. And I want to give you a hug. I'm not going to be one of those. I've always, you know, in leadership, my thing is like, I'm not going to be one of those leaders who tap Saffie on the shoulder and be like, I know what you're going through, because I don't, and I'm not even going to try and begin to understand. But what I will do is put an arm around you and say, you know, come on, you know, let's go after what God has set aside for us.
No, and you're completely right. And I think the biggest thing what this year has taught me and shown me is, as human beings, as people, how much we crave connection and relationship. And I think whether you're in a relationship and you're with the same person in the house, to whether you're by yourself, you have craved the connection with other people. I've said this before in a record I released yesterday called Anchor, of how that for me was for my little cousin that passed away a year tomorrow, and how our family, of how we have anchors in our lives and how that relates to me. But I've got family members that I haven't seen in a year, and they don't live too far from my own house. And there are people who've got in our group at church, we meet in Zoom, coincidentally, who they've shared experiences of at times where there's people who live streets from them who their family related to, at times where they can't see them. There's people up and down the country who they're 4 roads down from each other, that at some points in the tier system, they couldn't see them. That's been the reality of this year. It's been a different of thirsting for connection with people, but then realizing actually, because of how the tiers have been, you haven't been able to go see them. And I think in the past, you haven't seen people because we've been too busy, or we haven't had the time, or you know what, just because we haven't been bothered. Let's be honest about it, because we haven't been bothered.
Yeah.
And within those times, we've also seen people who've had their own mental battles going on, and we haven't understood. For the first time in the situation of the whole world, we've had a blueprint of getting a glimmer of what it's like to be in someone else's shoes day to day. The whole world is actually understanding that for some people, a taste of what we've had, this is what it's like for day to day. For some people who are introverts, this has been all right. I say it's been all right because it's like in the early days, some people are like, actually, I quite like this. But then there are some people out there where this is what it's like for them day to day, of feeling alone or feeling like this. I remember I felt challenged at one point of, I went and said, like, you know, we need to go out there and do stuff with different people. And someone wrote back to me on Facebook and said, but it's easy for you because if you don't have anyone who actually goes and contacts you or messages you, then you are alone. And I felt really challenged there and went like, that's a good point though. It's easy for me to go and say, guys, we need to go and rally and support people. But if you're someone who's always actually mentally felt like you've never had anybody, then nothing's going to change in your circumstance. Robin Williams says this, like, and Robin Williams helped shape my childhood and voice of being like, you know, Aladdin and Peter Pan and like in Hook
Mrs.
and
Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire, the list goes on.
You had to bring that film up.
I had to. The list goes on. And there's a quote that he says that I always quote in terms of, and it kind of reminds me of before I became a Christian, of the most loneliest person isn't the person who's alone. The most loneliest person is the person who is in a room surrounded by people, yet still feels alone. And for some people this year, we're only getting a taster of what it's like for them. So it's almost like, how do we, moving forward, how do we connect with those people? How do we actually check who's going on? Like, I know one practical thing we did was the minute the first lockdown happened, we created a WhatsApp group called Fight Mentality. And we looked at all the people that we knew who wouldn't have anybody, like the people who lived by themselves, or I say lived by themselves, the people that we knew that they wouldn't have anyone, like as in, like I say wouldn't have anyone, like, so like my boxing group of friends, we were like, okay, who are we going to look out for boxing wise, who we know, who like, okay, who do we know, or who close to, like, all right, we're going to put you guys in the group, because you know these guys will be covered in that group, these guys will be covered in that group, and those guys, so who are we're going to knit, like, so we got our mates, and then we go, okay, we'll put you in a group. And we did it for the first lockdown, just because we're like, well, we're a community of people, we're going to do it. So we did it. And we'll check in there, and every now and then someone will be like, you know, how's everyone doing? How's this and how's that? And because we thought this is only going to last a month or last a week, or, you know, a year later, we're still here. Or, you know, life groups, or how all churches moved to Zoom. Look at Zoom, look at the birth of Zoom, how Zoom has now become like this, is infiltrated. So practically moving on, how do we continue this newfound attitude of what we're doing, of actually caring for each other's mental health? And this time round, I'm going to go for the pioneer. Yeah, we're going to use proper terminology, Serge, not just some guy who did some stuff. The pioneer of Ignite, Serge, take it away.
The biggest thing for me is grace. The biggest thing for me is grace. And I think it's really...
Can I ask you a quick question? For
Yes.
our viewers out here that don't know what grace is, can you explain what grace is, please?
Grace is this incredible God-given gift. I see grace as a gift. The grace of God is mentioned so many times in the Bible. And grace is when God simply looks past who we are to get to where he wants us to be. And that's my definition of grace. You know, I think grace comes in so many different forms, but we need grace. But grace is not from within, but grace is from what God gives us. You know, so I'd say that's my definition of grace. But you know, in terms of lockdown and the question Dee asked, for me, it comes down to grace, and it comes down to what are actual expectations. I thought it was really interesting, especially like I guess in my church. When we started lockdown, we were very committed to putting out these high quality videos, and we were very committed to making worship look cool and doing the best we can. But then what we've done in the last couple of months, actually, we've just started having church on Zoom, and we've kind of come to this realization that having a community that's gathering together and having people on a screen pixelated, that has so much more value than it has of like me trying to put together like nice 4K worship videos, you know. And it's actually what it comes down to. And my prayer for the church is like when we get back into services, and when we, you know, which is, you know, in this country, it's definitely going to be a thing that's going to be happening this year because of the vaccine. Because of services, my prayer is that it actually comes down to 3 words, and it doesn't matter. Suddenly the stuff that we thought that was important to us about our communities, about our places of worship, that stuff doesn't matter so much. And it's actually like, we need to start being a church. And I had this word a couple of years ago, and I've probably said it at some point, but I think I had it around the same time at Dimitri, but God wants to build a church that talks to people, not at people. And I think this is the time to be like, actually, there's so many people's perception of like what a church should be and what a community should be. But I think it's really interesting. Church is basically like a book club. I think some churches are like a book club, and this isn't me going after anyone, but the thing about a book club is like we all read a book and we come together. But what we do is I try and place my interpretation of a book on Dimitri, but actually none of our interpretations matter. It's God's interpretation, and it's because God set the interpretation. So my prayer is that we'd be a church that starts talking at people and coming to people and being like, people scarred from this. People are going to have trauma from lockdown. You know, I definitely need stuff like I need to work through, and the stuff I'm working through, you know, but it's, you know, when we get back, we can't, it's wrong of us to carry on like it hasn't happened. You know, I think too often, I remember when we had the Westminster attacks, and the day after was Pentecost, and we had a 4 o'clock service, and it was neglected, you know, and it was like, we're just going to mention it very quickly, but we're going to carry on because we've got this set. As a church, we need to be on the pulse, and we need to be reacting to the things that are going on in our world, not just pushing through our Bible study plans. So that's my prayer for the church.
Saffie, what about you?
What was the question?
So in the short terms, with everything that you've learned so far, how are you going to take that and move on forward and bring that in and incorporate that into helping those who are in mental health?
Yeah, I think I've learned quite a lot over the last 7 or so years. I mean, that was only when I was diagnosed. I could have been suffering with it for quite a lot longer. But yeah, no, I do believe like God does give us these experiences so he can use these negative situations for a positive outcome. And I definitely feel I've learned quite a lot of how to handle situations. Like, in particular, nobody really enjoys when you're going through especially an anxiety attack, someone saying, oh, you know, you just need to calm down, you need to do this and that, and it's like, oh, it's good, you know, that you care enough to say it, but saying, you know, doesn't really always comfort the situation. It most certainly doesn't solve the problem. But having someone there who listens and has some form of slight understanding, and also kind of knows you personally on a personal level. I feel my friends have definitely helped me get through some really difficult situations, difficult moments. And I believe that going forward, having that little support group, that little like kind of network of people within the church, my life group have been an absolute amazing bunch of people. I've never felt like I was left alone, even when I did feel alone. Because there was these really dark moments where I did just feel like, you know, what's the point of being here? And it was, I knew I could just shout into the group and it wouldn't become too much for any of them. Like that, people would make a comment, or I'd get a phone call maybe 5 minutes later. And it was just really encouraging just to know that I had that little place where I could fall when I knew I was going to be caught. So it didn't feel as scary or as dark as it has done, but in years before. So yeah, definitely going forward, having like a good support group and incorporating that support kind of network, whether it be your friends, whether it be people from church, a life group, whether it's your family that you feel comfortable having that conversation, that trust, and just really opening up to. I would encourage anyone to create that kind of little support net. And I think honesty as well, being open and being really honest with the people that you have that support network with, because as soon as you let it out, then it doesn't really lay on your chest any longer. It doesn't really keep bottled away. I always like to think of it like a champagne bottle. You keep shaking and shaking and shaking, that pressure underneath the cork gets to a point where, yeah, it will explode and just go everywhere. But if you let it out before it gets to a pivotal moment, then over time you just reduce that pressure and it becomes so much easier to handle, and you can start focusing and thinking.
So guys, we've had some hard-hitting conversations, and above all things, as well as mental health stuff, a lot of mental health and a lot of time in COVID we've also done some relaxation. So now I'm going to ask you guys a real question that, you know, you've worked hard, you've done different jobs and different things in this time. But question I'm going to ask you now, and I need you to be honest, because I know as you may be good people of the faith as well. I know in COVID you haven't just been reading your Bibles. So Surj button up there. Sorry. So within this time of lockdown, what have you been watching? So we're gonna go to Saffie first. I can tell you're a sci-fi Doctor Who man. What are your recommendations?
Do you want me to play the Do you want me to play the theme tune now, Saffie, or are you gonna speak? Then I'll play the theme tune.
What are your recommendations? Give me two recommendations. Actually, firstly, number one, do you have a Netflix account?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it
Netflix
actually yours?
Ooh! Is it yours?
2 Netflix recommendations.
2 recommendations.
So it has to be The Witcher. I really enjoyed The Witcher when it came out.
Just a coin to your Witcher.
Indeed,
yes,
that one.
Okay.
And Henry Cavill is brilliant as The Witcher. And I think the second series, the third series of Star Trek Discovery I watched. So that was really quite interesting. It's nice to see how they've really changed Star Trek around and also kept parts of like previous series. And it's actually being written by and produced by one of the old actors of one of the older series. So it's not like they haven't got any experience in the role and trying to create something from scratch. It's it adds to the stories, and I think it's really good. So they're my recommendations from Netflix.
Beatrice, over to you. What are you doing in your downtime? What are we watching? Take it away.
Okay, so I do have a Netflix account, and it's my own account. I pay for it.
I pay for mine too.
Can I quickly put this out here? I quickly want to say there is no shame if you do. I have my own Netflix. There is no shame if you do not have your own Netflix account here. Okay, Surj just put this question out there to anyone watching right now. If you're on a plan, if you have an agreement, meaning someone has an Amazon account and you have a Netflix and you're swapping, there is no shame. I just want to put this out here. No validation. No needed. Beatrice, please go back again.
Can I just slide in a very funny story? Like the thing is, you realize your life. Like I was in a relationship with someone, and I still had her Netflix account, but I realized the relationship was actually over when I tried to sign in and she changed the password. That's called closure. So so that's when you know. But yeah, no, I do. But anyway, Beatrice, I just thought it was really funny. But
Beatrice, take it away. Take it away, Beatrice.
Okay, so on Netflix, Queen's Gambit. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the plot?
It's about chess. I can't play chess. That's all I know really. It's about chess, and I thought it was really well made, and I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any
And
other
then
recommendations?
not on Netflix, on Amazon, I've been watching This Is Us.
Ooh.
So I don't know if anyone's heard that. It's about a black guy who's adopted into a white family, and it's his story really. How he finds out he was adopted, and then his search for his real parents, and it's about family dynamics, and it's really good. I've enjoyed it anyway. Yeah.
And Surj, over to you. You been watching any more Freddie Mercury documentaries?
No, there aren't any good ones on Netflix actually. Obviously go and see Bohemian Rhapsody. I'd say that to anyone. So
I still haven't seen it.
Oh my days.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my days. Saffie, have you seen it?
Oh, but we are going to be watching it.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody and Purple Rain. Go and watch them. I really like The English Game, which is like the early years of the FA Cup, and that was beautiful. It has a beautiful soundtrack. This is just really, I'm just really into period dramas, And then the other thing I watched, which is really cool, is called Atypical on Netflix, and it's about
Brilliant.
it's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Superb
It's
show.
it's
Superb.
great. I binged all 4 seasons. I can't wait for season. I think they're season 5. I think there's gonna be one more series. But yeah, it's about an autistic guy who starts dating, and it's just hilarious, and it's just
And the
it's
penguin.
Just, yeah, and the penguin. It's such it's typical Netflix. It's beautifully shot. I really want to say Emily in Paris, but I like trashy TV. I think Emily in Paris was great, but the thing that really caught my heart, and this is so embarrassing, is Downton Abbey.
I love Downton. Love it.
I finally watched Downton Abbey, and within 30 minutes of the first episode, I cried. I laughed. I'm really into my period dramas, so like Downton Abbey was just, oh man, I want to watch it again. I really want to start from episode 1 again. But yeah, no, TV's been good.
Wolfy, why are you shaking your head? There's nothing wrong with Downton.
I love it. I love it. So, you know, guys, when I stopped earlier, that wasn't me being frozen on camera. That was just me standing. That was me being still. There was no technical errors on my side there. That was just wow.
This is the funny thing, though. It's like, you know, being in a band and stuff, people expect you to do these really cool things in the evening. I just sit there and watch TV, like, and people get really disappointed at that fact. It's just like...
Do you know what, right? It's like when people discover that my favorite hot drink is actually Earl Grey or Lady Grey by Twinings.
People think we're such divas, and we're not.
You see that sound there? When you did that, it's like Beatrice did that. Ooh, it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, mate. Yeah. Tea drinker.
You could just say
Earl Grey. That's
brown sugar.
How do you have your Earl Grey?
That Earl Grey, brown sugar in first. Tea. Hot water, well, tea bag, hot water, let it brew for a bit. And then of late, I've started investing in some soy milk, mate.
Oh,
try oat milk. Yeah. Try it with oat milk.
So try with oat milk. That's what we're going for. I love that, but now we got to rein it back into what we're here originally talking about, because I realise we've divulged into little things. But what I've started to realise, what we've all picked on though, what I've started to realise, I have picked up on a TV guilty pleasure, right? Mm-hmm. In lockdown, I was always busy, like work, coaching, sports, like life, all those things. I have a confession, because you realize you start to have a lot more time indoors and all those type of things. You start watching things you don't normally watch on telly. I started watching ITVB.
What? ITV what?
Like, you know, you start watching shows like Dinner Date. Yeah, the channel.
Oh.
Like Dinner Date. And things like that, and you start realizing what's going on, all these type of things.
Mate,
have you start realizing?
Have you seen Judge Rinder?
No, I'm not getting involved there. But the reason why, like, I'm leaving you alone. But the reason why I bring those things there is because, in terms of your mental health and those type of things, it's about having things where you can switch off, isn't it? It's those type of things where you got your programs. See, there's always method. There's always a method line there. Don't just go tangent for no reason, I'll tell you. But you always have to think of, okay, what can you do? And I was talking to a client this morning, and he said something to me, something really profound and powerful. How often do we celebrate a smile? How often do you celebrate getting up in the morning? But you panic when you worry. And you panic when you stress. If we hugely acknowledge, and we hugely are panicking in the negative moments, but we do not celebrate those moments of triumph, and we do not celebrate those moments of waking up in the morning, that we do not celebrate those moments of those smiling moments, to celebrate those moments of joy on an equal measure, then there is no balance. Yet we can do those for others, but if we do not do those moments for ourselves, then really, there isn't a balance, is there?
Yeah.
That the greatest gift, and this is where, for me, where I'm going to say this is going to sound really, really crazy right about now. The greatest gift we've had in lockdown is we've had moments where we can actually stop, breathe, assess, and evaluate. That we can stop, breathe, assess and evaluate what's going on. That we're now forced to stop doing. We're in situations that we don't like, but we can flip the head and go, but we're in situations where we can breathe.
That's so good.
We're in situations that we can struggle with, but we're in situations now that we can assess. We're in situations that we can struggle with, but we're in situations that we can evaluate. So, in the last minutes of this, I want to go and ask, and I'm going to go for Beatrice, of what are some of the practical steps that we can do and find as in resources and books that we can do, or just some of the talking points and conversations that we can have to continue this journey going forward?
I think Saffie said something earlier about actually being honest with yourself and those around you about how you're feeling. So the most important thing is when you're feeling low, actually try and seek help and be honest. Be honest with yourself and be honest with others, because only then can they support you. So that's the first thing I would say is really, really important. Aside from that, taking practical steps, self-care is hugely important. I know during lockdown, most of us have decided to stay in pajamas pretty much all day, but have a wash, you know, get up, take a shower, plan for your day, even if it's not going to be something massive, but actually take pride in self-care. Look after yourself, eat the right things, take time. I mean, we go all out for others. This is the perfect timing to look after yourself, you know, make that special meal for yourself. And as great as Netflix has been, you know, go out. You need to go out. You need to go out for a walk, even if it's just for 20 minutes in the day, rain or shine. Get out of your house and go and get some fresh air. So those are really the practical advice that I can give. In terms of books, there's so much material out there online. I'm hoping that we can edit another bit later on, and I'll give some website addresses and stuff.
We'll put it down below.
Yeah, we will do. And so get up, get showered, get dressed, go out, eat the right things, and sleep. Sleep is very important.
Saffie, what about you? What would you want to add in terms of, for you with your journey, what are the 3 points you would want to say to someone to help encourage them?
Well, I think Beatrice has covered quite a lot of the points that I would generally go for, but also have, well, as I said before, have a support network. Try and maintain contact with your friends in the support network. Secondly, I would probably encourage you to find something that distracts you. Find something that you can set your mind to, whether it be a task. One of my friends has been buying loads of Legos and making like Lego replicas of certain museums and stuff. So quite, you know, big pieces of what do you call it, structure and stuff. But they've spent a lot of time on it, and so it's kept them quite busy and kept them focused and not thinking on the really depressing side of, wow, we're in lockdown, I still can't see my friends, still can't see my family. Start, like you said, start trying to look at more the positive angle and distract yourself from those negatives. And thirdly, I'd probably go, just second Beatrice on going out for a walk. The fresh air does quite a good, you know, good thing to your body. Just going out there, it gives you time to think as well. Gives yourself time to maybe have a personal space, especially if you have faith, to have a personal space with God, and think. At least that's what I've been trying to do. And I've been trying to also eat healthily, so it's a part of my kind of routine, my exercise routine, and eating healthily as well, trying to lose a bit of weight, trying to, again, it's just another way of distracting yourself by giving yourself a task, giving yourself something to do, in the absence of not doing anything.
Very solid point. And Surj, my last question, with Ignite, how would you want Ignite to help with people for 2021?
Oh, I think the biggest thing is I think my biggest prayer, and I think the thing that God's put on my heart is the last 6 months, is a simple question, and the question is, are you in? And it's such a loaded question, because the alternative to are you in is you're out. And I think it's earlier you were talking about joy, and I think the interesting thing about joy is I think I've come to the realization that joy is a choice. We sometimes, it's hard, but we sometimes have to choose to see the beauty in the ashes. And for me, I was probably a really defining moment for me, is I was in Kensington Gardens with John, and I was walking back, and I kind of almost stopped down the street, because I was thinking about, I was like, you know what, I'm not where I am, but I'm where God wants me to be, and I'm okay with that. And if that's what if this is where you want me to be, and this is the time and the place and the environment that you've set aside for me, the question that I'd ask everyone and together is like, are you in? Because like, it comes down to, if we're in, God just wants to take us as we are. My prayer is that, we'd come together as a group of people and a community of people and really try and address that and be like, okay, let's join together. Let's hold hands and say, let's be in. Let's be in. And I think that's it made people maybe like, oh, that's too simple. I need more specifics. I need more theology. No, like, are you in? And that's what I really hope that people will take over the next couple of months.
So guys, lastly, is there anything that anyone else wants to add?
I think the biggest thing as well, like, I think if you're just watching this right now, you've got to the end of this, I think we'll try and set up something so people can write in. But if you just want to DM any of us on Instagram or send us a message, we'd be more than happy to get back to you as soon as possible. And I think we'll try and do a few more of these. I think we'll try and do a few more of these. But I think the biggest thing is, like, don't be scared to reach out. Don't be scared to reach out. If I could say one more thing, and that maybe this is just someone watching, is last year I made the decision to have therapy for the first time, and so for people who don't know, I have Asperger's, so I've been on a waiting list for 3 years to see a specialist, and I finally got to see a specialist last year, and I sat down with a lady, and obviously I won't give the name, but I spoke for about 3 weeks, and she says, I know what the problem is. And I was like, well, what? I was like, okay, I've gone through my whole life for 3 weeks, and like, what do you think it is? And she's like, you just don't know who you are. And that just, like, that stomped me. And I think that might be for some people out there. If you don't feel who you are, and I think right now identity is such a big thing, like, do get in touch with us, and we can I know Beatrice has got so many contacts, and Dimitri's such a good guy to talk to, and we really just want to start building up a community where you feel safe. We don't care who you are, where you've come from, what you've done. There isn't a membership fee. Like, all are welcome, and just really get in touch, and we will do the best we can by you.
So guys, like we said in the beginning, remember, ignite and spark the light. It's about sparking that conversation. Your health is wealth, guys. And it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's with us, whether it's a friend, whether it's with a neighbor, but spark that conversation today with someone, because you never know where that may take you, but more importantly, you never know how rewarding that may be for you. So please, ignite and spark the light. This has been the Ignite podcast, and guys, above all, stay blessed, and hope that you're all is well in this time. So guys, look after one another, and many blessings. Guys, peace out.